Let's write a fight scene. In my prior videos, I showed how Ryan Coogler wrote a boxing sequence in Creed and how Tony Gilroy wrote a one-on-one fight in The Bourne Identity to show you as a writer the different styles and techniques of how to write action. We're going to step it up now by adding a third character to the fight. We're going to be looking at Mission Impossible Fallout, written by Christopher McQuarrie, and specifically the bathroom fight. In this scene, we have three people. We have three people to keep track of. And in a fight, you never as a writer want to forget about one of your characters, because on screen you don't want that character to be just standing around not doing anything. And so it's really hard to track where everybody is, what they're doing, and give them something specific to do so that they're not wasted, so that they're not there for no reason. And this script does a really good job in this action sequence of keeping track of all three people. Second thing is how the beats are structured within the fight itself. If all you have is kick, punch, kick, punch, kick, punch, the reader and the audience is going to get bored very quickly because the fight doesn't have any rhythm. It's just fighting, and that gets very boring. Even good action can get tedious and boring and repetitive. So what do? You do what Tony Gilroy did in Bourne Identity and what most good action fights do. You have action, reaction, escalation. Action, reaction, escalation. And the leverage changes. First, you have one person winning, and the other person winning, and one person winning. And as you're escalating, those things shift and change, and that's what keeps it fresh. The third thing to keep in mind is something that is not really in this scene. It's more in the Bourne Identity. But an action sequence just for the sake of an action sequence doesn't push a plot along. When you put the character map on top of the action and the action helps reveal character, like in the Bourne Identity, then that really ties everything together. The film version of this scene does more of that than the written version because you see how exhausted Ethan is. You see the age on him. You see all the missions in his past, right? This is not an easy fight for him. That's less present in the script, but everybody knew who, like this wasn't a spec script. This was written and a lot was we know who these characters are before we start. One more thing. This is very detailed as a fight sequence, but it's the beats that are specific, not the punches and the kicks. You'll see we need to know where everybody is, and we need to have the escalation, and we need to have the changing of the stakes, and we need to have all of that rhythm, that dancing. But there also needs to be room for choreography, stunt work, directing, editing. And that's in here, and I'll point it out as we go. All right, interior stall, night. Ethan and Walker freeze. A question in French off screen. Loud laughter mixed with kissing sounds. Ethan sighs. This is all he needs. Louder knocking. Voices. A loud bang. Ethan and Walker press their hands to the door. The French leave. Walker exhales, relieved. Ethan goes back to scanning Lark when he notices the eyes on the mask are opening. He looks at Lark. Reveal. Lark's eyes are opened. Focused. He lunges upward. Look at how short each action is. This prose is tight. The reader is reading each thing that happens. Tony Gilroy does the same thing in Bourne Identity. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is what happens. We don't need a lot of explanation. All we need is the action, right? And so the only character beat we have here is Ethan sighs. This is all he needs. I like that. Because I can see Tom Cruise's face and just the frustration, right? That's the only line I need in order to know, like what's happening emotionally with everybody in the scene. All right, so now we're going to start in on the fight. Interior bathroom night. Overwhelming both of them, Lark kicks Ethan through the stall door, crashing down to the floor. He and Walker continue to trade blows, Lark smashing the mask machine into Walker's face. Walker grabs, but Lark flips over his arm, bringing Walker down hard. That seems very choreographed, but here's what I'm talking about, leaving room for the stunt team and the choreography. Words like this, overwhelming, trade blows, That's choreography. That can mean anything. That can mean 1 second. That can mean 10 seconds. That could be a 2-minute long, exchange of punches and kicks. It's in there as a placeholder, but it takes us through the beat. Because what's the beat? The beat is we kick Ethan through the door. Walker and Lark fight. Rising quickly, Lark punches Walker in the throat before kicking Ethan, who stumbles back. Ethan fends off blows, trying to hold his ground. Fends off blows, leaves room for choreography. Ethan got kicked out of the door, but we're keeping track of where he is, because as soon as they're out of the stall, Lark punches Walker in the throat, so we can focus on Lark and Ethan now. Walker recovers and grabs Lark, throwing him through the center mirror. Lark smashes through several sinks and lands heavily. Lark recovers, yanks a metal U-bend from a broken sink, and goes for Ethan. The beat is what's important here. Lark had the upper hand, and now Walker has the upper hand. We're switching perspective. Now Lark goes through, and we're escalating. How are we escalating? We went from fists to the U-bend from the broken sink, the metal U-bend. So now we have a weapon involved. Escalation. Walker was hit in the throat. He's out of it for just a beat. Ethan takes over, then Walker comes back in. So nobody is just standing around doing nothing. Walker attacks Lark from behind. Lark breaks free, uses the pipe to clothesline Walker to the floor, going after Ethan again. A lot of this leaves room for stunt work, choreography, what they're going to do with the fight. But the point of it is that Walker's attacking, Lark breaks free, now he's going after Ethan. Everybody is active in the scene, and it keeps escalating. They grapple. Grapple can mean anything to a stunt coordinator, to a director, to an actor. Lark ends up behind Ethan. How? Doesn't matter, because that's not for the writer, that's for the stunt team. Trying to pull the jagged end of the pipe into Ethan's throat. Escalation. Ethan is now in mortal danger. He's got the broken pipe up against his throat. But where's Walker? We don't want to lose Walker, right? Well, look at the very next sentence. In the mirror, he sees Walker whip off his jacket and advance up behind him, enraged. This is great because this shows you the collaborative nature of a fight sequence and of a movie. This is where in the film Henry Cavill does his cocks his fists, and it's become like the most iconic part of that scene. I love that scene. It just shows so much character. He's like gearing himself up for this fight. It's not in the script, but it kind of is, because he advances up behind him enraged. It's just a really great way that Cavill and the stunt team put it together and decided to visualize it. Lark pivots to bring Ethan between them, but Ethan kicks off the wall, breaking free. Lark punches Ethan in the throat, staggering him. Why? Because we need to get Ethan out of the way for a second so that Walker and Lark can fight. Walker attacks, pressing Lark to the wall, hammering him with body blows. Lark turns the tables, gets the better of Walker. Can't say it any better than that. Turning the tables again and again and again and again. We're turning the tables. Lark is winning. Walker's winning. Lark is winning. Ethan's winning. And everybody is being separated just long enough to be able to focus on that one part of the fight, but nobody's just standing around. And it's just the kinetic energy is just, you can read it. You can see the kinetic energy in the scene. Ethan tries to get back up to help, but the moment he stands, Lark kicks him in the chest, sending him down again. I think this is the point in the film where, Ethan gets up and he's like, Jesus, I'm exhausted, right? Lark finishes Walker, driving him to his knees, kicking him in the face, and knocking him out cold before beckoning Ethan. Got Ethan back out of the way. Now we can get rid of Walker again so that Lark can focus only on our hero, only on Ethan, right? So now this is the final showdown of the action sequence, man on man. Ethan charges, picking up Lark and smashing him through the wall, landing at the base of the cubicle. Great. They struggle on the floor. That can mean anything. Lark spies his gun and grabs it. Escalation. Action, reaction, escalation. We started with the mask machine. We started with fists. We escalated to the metal pipe. Then we escalated again to the gun. So we keep moving things up and up and up and up. It's not always the same beat over and over and over again. He and Ethan grapple for the gun. Grapple could mean anything. Lark has the upper hand, slowly bringing the gun to Ethan's face. Ethan desperately tries to force it away, but he can't. This is the climax of the fight sequence, right? Mortal danger. Bang! Lark falls down dead, shot in the head. Ethan spins, grabbing the gun, looking for the shooter. Reveal, Ilsa, standing in the doorway, gun in hand. Ilsa, shit. Off-screen save, great way to end the fight. Walker was unconscious. We didn't have to worry about where he was. Ethan was the primary focus at the end of the fight. He's our hero. We want him to be the focus at the end of the fight. We put him in danger. Lark's almost about to win. Action, reaction, escalation. Great fight scene. Really well written. It's about a page. The fight scene in the film's about 3.5 minutes. You'd like to have a 1-to-1 ratio page to screen time. Doesn't always happen that way. If I were to write this scene, it would look something more like this. And I won't read the whole thing again. I'll just show you what I mean. All I'm really doing is breaking the action up so that each block is no more than 2 to 3 lines, even if it's just one sentence. Sometimes it's even good to have just, look, 2 words on a line. And as we go through this, yes, it extends the scene and makes it longer, but the scene itself in the final film is longer. And at the end here, because I want to build tension and build suspense, I'm making the sentences shorter and shorter and shorter, the action block shorter and shorter and shorter, until bang, on its own line. I've really only added about maybe over a half a page in length. But now if you look at this, you can see how readers would respond by being able to scan down the page. And if you compare this to the way it is in the finished script, it's just easier to follow. There's more white space. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying that as a writer trying to advance in competition or in coverage, if you don't want to get the note of your action is too dense, which is a note, that is a note, it is a checkbox. If you ever go through the gauntlet and you get your notes back, one of the default drop-down notes that they give you is action is too long, should be 2 to 3 lines. I'm not kidding. Ask anyone who's gotten coverage from Gauntlet. I've had a script go all the way to the 3rd round of Gauntlet, and I've had a script get kicked out of the 1st round of Gauntlet. Both scripts have had those notes, 2 to 3 lines. So now I don't want that to be an issue. So I make sure that my scripts adhere to that note. Why not? Don't give them a reason to say no. So those are 3 films that show you how to write a fight sequence. They each have their own style, but the consistent thing is these short moments, these short sentences, breaking up the action into short beats, action, reaction, escalation, and leaving enough room on the page for choreography, stunt work, and all of that. Next up in the series, we're going to expand from the man-on-man fight, or in this case, 2-on-1 fight, to man versus group. And the first film we're going to look at is the screenplay for Nobody, where Bob Odenkirk kicks some ass on a bus. So I hope you join me for that, and I hope you found this entertaining and educational. Leave a comment down below if you think that I'm wrong, right, if you got any thoughts whatsoever. And if you like this kind of content, come on back to the channel for even more of it. So until next page, I'm Matt Weiner, and this is Fade In, a channel dedicated to the art of screenwriting.